Calendar. Hello, 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 everyone. Everyone here, raise your hand if you're here. I love this technology. So, hello, everybody. My name is Corey Bretz, and I feel a massive amount of honor and joy to be here, hanging out with you on this warm day in August. If you're just logging in here on Zoom, welcome. This is the ConneXions live or ConneXions intensive live weekend workshop Q&A session that we're putting on. We're actually doing a series of these in the lead up to the September 8th to 10th workshop happening in Bellingham. And I don't know about you, but I've attended a lot of things over the years, and I've wished that I could have asked a question too and been able to understand what was going on. So we got with us today one of the facilitators who I have literally grown to love and cherish, and he's a guy who is always asking me to show up a bit more. He's challenging me to be more of myself. And asking me what's in the way of me being myself. Why? Well, because if I can't figure that out, I can't really show up, right? So welcome if you're just joining us here. I'm Corey Bretz. We are on the ConneXions intensive weekend workshop live Q&A session, and we've got several key people here, and I'm going to introduce one of them. And maybe once he's done that, he can give us all a chance to introduce ourselves. And so we're going to run till 12 or till 1 o'clock, and there'll be some time for your Q&A, your questions, your answers. Hello, if you're just joining us, welcome to the ConneXions intensive live Q&A session. The guy I want to introduce to you to get started here is Bob Jones. So the guy I want to introduce here to get started is Bob Jones. Bob, are you here?
I am.
There you go. He's here. Good. So now Bob Jones, I met Bob, it's got to be like 10, 15 years ago at a Mankind Project event. And those of you who don't know what the Mankind Project event is, it's an organization of men who get together to consciously choose to live lives of integrity. That is, to be more ourselves and bring the gifts that we landed on this planet with for the betterment of our communities. And you know, it's really much a process of removing all the layers of things we've told ourselves that aren't true over the years, and the ways we try to fit in and blend in, and usually it involves a lot of hiding, repression, denial, and stuff like that. So Bob is absolutely one of the most skilled people I have ever met in clearing away all the illusions that we have about ourselves, the things that keep us disconnected and apart and separate from one another. And isn't really that what keeps us from having what we really truly crave, which is that intimate connection. I remember sitting in a circle one time when Bob rolled out something called the Cartman drama triangle, and that was one of the most powerful moments for me to actually have an aerial view on this really warped dance that I had been doing for most of my adult life. And just to have the moment to be able to step out of that and just the relief and the joy of not having to do that anymore. Thank you, Bob. I don't know if I ever thanked you for that. Bob's also studied Buddhism and Gestalt and spiral dynamics, integral theory, Zen meditation, and way more things that we can possibly get around to listing for them today. But here's the most important part. Bob actually is a husband, and he's a father, and he's a pillar of many communities, and brings his heart. And so I just feel massive joy and pleasure and honor to do anything with Bob. So Bob, I want to hand it over to you. Whenever you're ready, you're going to do a little 5, 6, 7 minute overview on kind of what you're bringing to ConneXions. And then from there, we'll flip into a Q&A session. Sound about good?
Thank you, Corey. I'm not sure I can live up to your intro, but I appreciate it deeply. I have been an analytical, left-brained, computer programmer for over 50 years. About 25 years ago, I discovered that I had another organ in my body that was actually a lot smarter than my brain. And I started studying Gestalt and looking at what it was like to feel, because I could think real well, but to actually feel, that was, I knew what feelings were, but I just didn't know how to articulate them, how to express them, how introduced me to the drama triangle. He told me about a program called the Mankind Project, and after sitting on his advice for about 14 months, I finally went and did their New Warrior Training Adventure and got hooked. And I have now staffed over 40 of those weekends. And as I've been staffing that weekend, what I've done is had a chance to help initiate over 1,000 men, and I see patterns emerging. And one of the patterns that I want to talk about today is this pattern of the belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. And this pattern is something that I see so commonly that I'm beginning to think that it's just built into our culture. And it's not just men. Women seem to experience the same belief systems that men do, that this, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not worthy enough to get paid as much as men. But here's the interesting fact about this. It's not universal. This is cultural. When the Dalai Lama came to the United States a number of years ago, what he was told about this phenomena of not worthy, not good enough. He couldn't believe it because it wasn't common in his culture, wasn't present in his culture. So this is something that we have created within our own culture. And I got really curious about, well, what are the causes of this and what are the cures? How do we actually move through and beyond and rewire that belief? So let me talk a little bit about what I've discovered as some of the patterns, the causes that create this belief system. First, parents. When we're children, we're getting messages about who we are and what we believe and what our parents want us to be very early on. I remember vividly when I was 7 years old, sitting on the stairs in my listening to my father and mother have an argument, a really loud, vicious argument. I heard my father slapping my mother. And I took on the belief at that point in time that men with power will hurt people. And what that did was it crippled me and my own power for most of my adult life. If I had power, I give it away. I don't want it. I don't want to hurt you. But I wound up hurting people anyway, unconsciously, just because I didn't know how to manage my own inner feelings. It's not just parents, though, that this comes from. Teachers, peers. I went to high school with one of the guys on this call, who shall remain unnamed until he recognizes himself. And one of the things that high school kids do and elementary kids can be vicious. And what I picked up was a nickname, and the nickname was Shmoo. It's a little Abner character who had narrow shoulders and wide hips. Well, I am genetically narrow-shouldered and bigger hips. Gave me a heck of an advantage in wrestling. I wound up my senior year, 19-0-1. But that name hurt. It stung. When anybody called me that name, it hurt. So I took on a belief about myself that my physicality is not good enough. It's not acceptable. I'm not good enough as a human being just looking the way I look. So move forward beyond parents, teachers, peers, into our culture. Recently went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Wasn't as good as I expected it to be, but the pattern I saw was one that just, yep, there it is again. You remember Rocky or Rocket and Star-Lord the main characters, always just sniping at each other, just putting each other down, and never speaking honestly to each other. Now, by contrast, the men like Corey that I hang around with, and other men on this call who are men I know from the Mankind Project, that kind of conversation just doesn't happen. We just don't talk that way anymore, because we've learned the power of being vulnerable, being open, being straight with each other. So that pattern of, I ain't gonna let you see who I am, that's a very macho pattern. Goes back to, heck, my kid days watching John Wayne movies, you know? It's just a flesh wound, don't worry about it, you know? And oh, by the way, this is not limited to men. Women get it too. I'm thinking of the messages women get about airbrushed beauty. Well, you know, it's just not real, but it's the expectation put upon so many women. You know, the line "The Stepford Wives" comes to mind about this idealistic woman from a macho male's point of view, who looks just beautiful, doesn't really have much brains. And it's a terrible image. It's a horrible image. And it shows up so much in the misogyny that is just rampant in our culture. And we see it from the top down. I mean, and I don't even have to even go in details about that. You all know who I'm talking about. So those are the patterns that I see. So how do we deal with that? What are the cures for this? And I think the first cure is to accept that I am who I am. It's the old Popeye statement. Yeah, I'm what I am. If I can't accept myself as I am, why not? Well, I realized a number of years ago that I had, in order for me to accept myself as I am, I had it wired that I have to love myself as I am. And what that meant to me was I had to love some idealized image of what I should be, but I'm not. And that left me feeling not good enough. So to accept myself as I am, you know, I'm a 71-year-old guy. I'm mortal. I'm gonna die. You know, I have narrow shoulders and broad hips. That's just the way I'm built, you know? Sorry about that. And acceptance then can lead to self-compassion. And compassion for myself means that I can ultimately have compassion, true compassion for you and for others. And I can work with men or women doing a process and help them and feel with them what they're going through and feel it authentically. And finally, the third leg of this triangle for me is developing a healthy ego. And those of you who are deep into meditation might think about, well, non-dualism, the ego dies. Yeah, fine, that's great. I think there's something to that. But in order to exist in this world, I have to have an ego. My ego has to be able to protect me. But if my ego thinks I'm not good enough, not worthy, not lovable, it's going to show up in how I interact with you. It's going to show up in my being defensive to protect myself. And guess what? That doesn't work well with connection. That's what breaks connection. So how do we deal with this? Well, I found that developing self-acceptance, self-compassion, and a healthy ego is a slow process. It's taken me many years. And it involves my being really willing to look in the mirror of who I am and just accept myself, dark side, as well as what we call the light and the gold parts of me, the stuff that Corey was so effusive about. Well, there's also some dark sides to me too. And I suspect that each of you also has a dark side that you keep hidden. Well, what we find is that the more I keep that dark side hidden, the more it shows up in ways that break connection. The other people can see it. My wife, my partner of 42 years, she can see it when it shows up. So what I've done is I've sat in circle for 15 years with men who give me honest feedback saying, Jones, you're full of shit right now. And, you know, they'll call me on my BS and they'll help me get real. So that has helped me learn to drop my defenses, to recognize when I'm being defensive. And that led me to develop the ConneXions workshop, which is where we talk about this stuff in much more detail. So this is the ConneXions website. If you come to upcoming events, here's the Bellingham workshop. All right. And here's a description of it. Corey and Cindy have put together some wonderful descriptions of this, describe workshops, where it's going to be held at a beautiful venue out in Whatcom County. And then you click on the Register Me button and it will take you to the registration page. Here you see that the price of it is $395. There's a couples discount of for two for one for $690, and you click on add to click on the here. I'm going to attend, add it to the event cart, and then widget didn't put up this particular message. It just was confusing. And Donna, can you get that, please? And so if you get down to the point here where there's supposed to be a promotion code on here someplace. And the promotion code that I put in here was seminar, SEMINAR. And that promotion code will knock 10% off through noon tomorrow. So Brandy, if you're going to make it, you better get on a plane real quick. Brandy lives in Maryland, I believe.
No, I'm in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay, yes, Florida. You moved to Florida.
Oh, Myrtle Beach.
So,
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Well, I can't keep up with you, man. What can I say? So, if you're interested, you have questions, please give me a call. I'm going to put my phone number in the chat window as soon as I can figure out how to do that. Stop the chair, stop that, and chat. My phone number to everyone is 360-756-2424. So feel free to give me a call, and we'll talk offline. I'll answer any questions you have about the logistics or pricing or whatever. And bottom line basically is I don't want money to get in the way of your coming. So if there's a challenge around that, let's talk. Okay. So
sounds good.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
We're about 2 minutes after. So thank you all. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Cindy, who's been tremendously helpful. Howard and Sharon are also on my facilitation team, and have been. Howard and I have done this now twice together already. And had a heck of a good time. You want to add anything, Howard?
I gotta wire myself up to get online, but I think, Bob, you've set up a fantastic format for people to connect deeply and authentically, so I really appreciate that.
Wow, that was quick and concise and
brief.
Damn good. Thank you. Thank you, Howard.
So you'll notice in the chat group there, we've added in a link to the next workshop webpage. There's also the promotion code that will get you 10% off your price for the next 48 hours. Guys, we have a special price if you're bringing a lady with you, or Sharon or whatever. Anyways, partner couples get a special price. You save some money. So if, it's a good excuse to go get married now in the next couple of months.
I don't check whether you're married or not. If you claim that you're a couple, that's fine with me.
Yeah, bring a friend. All right, good. Well, thank you very much. Our next webinar is coming up on Monday at 12:30. Bob's actually going to take us through another topic that is
Cartman drama triangle.
Yeah, sick of being a victim. So thank you very much, Bob. Can't wait for that. That's at 12:30 right here, and we'll be sending you guys the links. You all have we have your email address. We'll send you the link to that. Someone you know in your world who you know they're struggling with isolation and loneliness, they want more love, they're in a rut. Share this with them. Thank you very much.
And we'll be posting the video online. Take care, guys.